Well, ladies and gentlemen, I finally did it. I finally got LASIK surgery. I was so sick and tired of my contacts and my glasses, but up until LASIK Plus came along, I was too nervous to do it. But thanks to their 20 years of experience in the industry and over 2 million treatments performed, I felt very comfortable. Not to mention, LASIK is all they do. It's their expertise, and the second-generation family-owned company made me feel very, very comfortable. I want you to have the same experience. So if you're treated in July, you get $750 off their Wavelight laser, plus they have guaranteed financing for every patient. Trust me, it's worth it.
With aerodynamic lines, a luxurious interior, and a powerful engine, what feeling do you get when driving the Jaguar F-Type? All of them. An exhilarating combination of design and performance makes the F-Type like no other sports car in the world. Learn more at JaguarUSA.com.
Welcome into Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers. I'm Scott Seidenberg, in for Danny Burke here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. About an hour away from puck drop of Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final, the Lightning looking to become the first team since the 2015 Blackhawks to hoist Lord Stanley's Cup on their home ice, looking to close out the Canadiens here in 5 games. NBA Finals Game 2 is tomorrow. After Game 1, the odds have now shifted for not just the series, but also the MVP markets. This was something that we were high on prior to tip-off of Game 1. Regardless of whether or not Giannis played in Game 1, it turns out he did, and he looked great. He looked healthy. The line did change as a result of Giannis playing, but we were still on the Suns the entire way. And we were on Chris Paul to win the Most Valuable Player award. The reason being was because of the odds and because of the narrative. Prior to tip-off of Game 1, the Suns were minus 200 to win this series. When it was announced that Giannis was going to play in Game 1, the odds shifted a little bit and went down to maybe 195 at Bet Rivers. But Chris Paul to win the MVP was plus 175, and then before tip-off of Game 1, plus 160 at Bet Rivers. That was where I suggested playing your money on this series. If you felt that the Suns were going to win, which I did, the smarter bet would be to place the money on Chris Paul to win the MVP rather than risk 2-1 on the Suns to win the series. Because if Phoenix wins the series, it's likely that Paul was going to be voted the most valuable player because it is a voted-on award. And sure, there's the possibility that Devin Booker would have the better stats in this series rather than Chris Paul. But the voters were probably, I think, still going to give the award to Chris Paul. But what did CP3 do in Game 1? Well, it's not just the narrative anymore. He had the stats to back it up. Chris Paul with a game-high 32 points in Game 1 of the NBA Finals, 9 assists, and he took advantage of the way the Milwaukee Bucks rotated on defense. He went at Brook Lopez all game, and the pick and roll, the switching, it was to the Suns' advantage and to the Bucks' disadvantage. They had Ayton on smaller players. They had Chris Paul just basically abusing Brook Lopez and hitting those mid-range jumpers, which he is so good at. And Chris Paul, after the 32-point performance with the 9 assists, he is now your overwhelming favorite to be the most valuable player of these NBA Finals. The odds have gone from plus 160 before tip of Game 1 to minus 143 at Bet Rivers right now. Chris Paul to be the most valuable player of the NBA Finals. Devin Booker's odds increased to plus 300. It's actually an interesting bet. If you think that Booker can have the statistical impact for the next 3 wins for the Phoenix Suns, getting the plus 300 value isn't a bad move. It's not a bad thing to sprinkle some money on if you think Booker can best Chris Paul in the stats and be the more attractive pick to be the most valuable player. Now, why am I only talking about the Phoenix Suns here? It's only 1 win, and they have to win 3 more games in order to win the NBA Finals. But I do believe that that's what's going to happen. The Suns, in my opinion, are the better team. They have the better matchups. Their backcourt is more talented than the Milwaukee Bucks, and coaching-wise, they have the advantage as well. Monty Williams outcoached Mike Budenholzer in that game one. Chris Paul is healthy, and he's playing tremendous basketball, and DeAndre Ayton coming into his own. Man, that was a prop bet that we loved yesterday. His over 15.5, as he has averaged 18.6 in the 5 career games he played against the Milwaukee Bucks, and he scored more than that here in game one as DeAndre Ayton took advantage of the mismatches, 22 points and 19 rebounds for Ayton against Brook Lopez and the Milwaukee Bucks. And I expect that trend to continue in game two. The Suns, just an incredible team at home this year. The Bucks, not so great on the road. And I do think Phoenix goes up 2-0 here in the NBA Finals. More on that coming up in just a few minutes as we transition here and get ready for Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final from Amalie Arena. As I mentioned, the Tampa Bay Lightning looking to become the first team to win the Stanley Cup at home since the Chicago Blackhawks in 2015, coincidentally against the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is Rush Hour presented by Bet Rivers. I'm Scott Seidenberg coming to you here on VSiN, the sports betting network. You can hit me up on Twitter at ScottsOnAir or hit us up at VSiN Live. Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final less than an hour away, and the only way to play this game is to bet the Tampa Bay Lightning on the puck line. Why do I love the Tampa Bay Lightning to win this game? It's not just that they're the better team, but they've actually played better in this series. They played better in the loss, believe it or not, in overtime in Montreal in Game 4. There's a reason why they're heavily favored, minus 230 on the money line at Bet Rivers, but the puck line you can get some plus money on, and that's where this game becomes really attractive. The Tampa Bay Lightning are 14-0 after a loss the last 2 postseasons. 6-0 this year after a loss in the postseason. They're also outscoring their opponents by a very large margin. They have outscored teams, Montreal, 8-3. This postseason, they are at home. They average 4.09 goals at home this postseason. And the reason why the puck line is so attractive is because this is an elimination game. And if Tampa has a lead at the end of regulation, Carey Price is going to be out of that net with probably 3 minutes to play, maybe even more. In an elimination game, if you're down 1 or 2 goals, you're starting to look around that 4-minute mark to get the extra attacker on and put some pressure to try to either make it a 1-goal game or to get that equalizer. So I do expect Tampa, who has a bad record in overtime, 0-4 this season, including the loss last game again in Montreal. I don't think this is going to overtime. I think Tampa has a lead at the end of regulation. And when they do have that lead at the end of regulation, Carey Price will be out of the net with 3 to 4 minutes left to play, and Tampa's going to have plenty of opportunities to put the puck inside the empty net. If not 1, maybe 2 empty net goals. I can see this being a 3-goal Tampa victory, maybe 5-2, 4-1. The total is set at 5 at Bet Rivers, and I like the over because I do think about those empty net goals, and that could be where the total gets pushed past the 5. This could be an under game until the final 3 minutes when Tampa puts 2 into the empty net. And the final score winds up being, like I said, 5-2 or maybe 5-1. And then you're hitting that over and you're getting 6 goals. That's a realistic possibility, and I don't think you can feel comfortable betting on the under in this game unless you're really confident in Montreal's ability. Because if Montreal wins this game's going under. If Tampa Bay wins this game is going over. And it's not going to be because Andrei Vasilevsky is letting up goals. It's going to be because Tampa Bay is scoring them. Vasilevsky has been incredible this postseason, and he is your favorite to win the Conn Smythe. As great as Nikita Kucherov has been, and Braden Point for the beginning and middle part of this postseason was excellent as well. He actually leads in goals. Kucherov leads in points. But man, as great as Vasilevsky has been, I find it hard to see anybody else winning the Conn Smythe Award after the Tampa Bay Lightning close out the Montreal Canadiens. Let's welcome in Dan Rosen, senior writer, NHL.com, host of NHL at the Rink podcast. Dan, in your estimation, is there any way Montreal goes into Amalie Arena tonight and extends this series?
Yeah, they can do it. I wouldn't put it past them to do it. I mean, look, they won games 5, 6, and 7 against Toronto. They won game 4 in this series. They're 4-0 when facing elimination. So that does have to account for something, and they're finally coming in with a little bit of mojo, I think. But that being said, we know the Lightning have been so dominant in games following a loss. I call them the best adjustment team in the league because what happens is when they lose a game, they are very honest in their assessment of the game and how they played, and they go out and they make the corrections so they're not making the same mistakes twice. And for example, Montreal has been turning the puck over that's led to goals in this series every game, even in Game 4 when they won. But when Tampa makes a mistake, you're very rarely seeing it happen twice in back-to-back games. So I think they've been great. Andre Vasilevsky's got shutouts in 4 straight clinching games. 3 of them have come in games following a loss. So I don't see it, but I think it can happen. I do think Tampa ends it tonight, but I wouldn't be shocked if Montreal pulled it off and got this thing to a 6th game.
Yeah, that's a fair way of putting it. I actually think the play that I'm plugging in this game is the Lightning on the puck line minus a goal and a half, because I do believe they'll have a lead at the end of regulation. And because it is an elimination game, Carey Price is going to be out of that net with probably 3.5, maybe even 4 minutes left, barring, of course, maybe a power play or just the Lightning having the puck in the offensive zone. At what point do you think Montreal gets desperate, or any team gets desperate in an elimination game?
Well, you got to get desperate early in an elimination game. There's no question about it. If you're down a goal, though, let's say you're down a goal late in the game, I'm not suggesting you're pulling Carey with 4 minutes to play, unless, you're in a situation where, it's a face-off in their end and you may want to try it in that situation, off of an icing where they got tired guys or something along those lines. But otherwise, I think you're like 2.5 minutes is probably where you're looking at here, because you do have to have more desperation, obviously, in an elimination game. There's no question about it. If you're down 2, the guy might be out with 10 minutes to go in the game. I mean, it could just be that, it could just be that type of situation. I wouldn't put it past the coach to do that, especially if you get a favorable, situation in terms of where the puck is going to be, where the faceoff's going to be, and, again, like I said, off of an icing or whatnot. So you got to have desperation early. Frankly, you got to have desperation right off the bat here. So we'll see how Montreal is able to come out here, because one thing I do know, and I would guarantee this, Tampa's going to come out flying tonight. They want to end this thing. This is an opportunity to win this thing on home ice, in front of their friends and family, in front of their fans. They don't have to go back up to Montreal and deal with all the protocols the Canadian government has issued to allow this to happen and whatnot. Protocols that are necessary, by the way. They don't want to go back up there and have to deal with all that. They want to end this thing tonight. Yeah,
especially last season, winning it in the bubble and not having the opportunity to share it with their fans in their own arena. I think that's something that they would look to cherish here in this game tonight. For Montreal, Dan, they made the move. Toffoli was bumped off the line. Anderson moved up with Caulfield and Suzuki. Do you expect the same tonight here in Game 5?
Yeah, they'll have the same lineup at least to start. That's what they showed this morning at the morning skate. And why would you change? I mean, it worked, right? Josh Anderson moved up and had a big night, had a huge night, So, he's that type of player that you can move him up into the lineup, and he's going to play the same way. And you put him with some more skilled players, he's going to be even better in that role. So I do expect the same lineup. I expect the same lineup and the same lines and D pairs and goalies for both teams. I don't think you're going to see any changes.
Dan Rosen, senior writer, NHL.com, host of NHL at the Rink podcast, joining me, Scott Seidenberg, here on Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers. You take a look at the Conn Smythe Trophy award and really the odds to win. Vasilevsky is the favorite. Kucherov's right there as well. And there was a point throughout this postseason, Dan, that I thought Braden Point was going to win this award. And because it's not just about the finals, it's about the entire postseason. But really, is it Vasilevsky's to lose? Can you give it to really Kucherov or Point, or it just has to go to Vasilevsky if Tampa Bay wins?
Well, I think the only way Point gets is if he gets like a hat trick tonight and has a huge game. I mean, he hasn't scored or had a point in 3 straight games now. So he hasn't scored a goal, I believe, since game 6 against the Islanders. And that was his 9th in a row. It was huge. But I don't think he's in the running right now unless he's just has a monster game. But in terms of Vasilevsky and Kucherov, I do think it might come down to tonight. Vasilevsky gets a shutout or 1 goal against, and bang, you win the cup. I think it's him. If that still happens and Kucherov gets 5 points or something like that, which is possible, not out of the realm of possibility, maybe it's him. I think Vasilevsky right now has to be the leader because the favorite to do it. Because as good as Kucherov has been with his 32 points in the playoffs, and he has been dynamic, there's no question about it. The biggest reason the Lightning are where they are right now is Vasilevsky. And it's not because they've relied on him to be the biggest factor in every game. In fact, their whole game plan is to not have to rely on him to be that way. But he has been the most consistent player. You look at his numbers, even though he hasn't had to steal games in this playoff run, he's got a sub 2.00 goals against. His save percentage is excellent. He's got a bunch of shutouts, and he's there every single night. So I think it's him.
You mentioned Tampa Bay wanting to come out early and aggressive. Do you see this first period being a high-scoring first period? Can we play the over 1.5 goals? Do you think that multiple goals get scored here in the first 20 minutes?
Oh, I could see that. Yeah, I can absolutely see that happening. I think if multiple goals are getting scored, I wouldn't be shocked if it's 2 for Tampa. To be honest with you. The way they are able to start games on home ice, and I mean, look, even though it was game 4 was a win for Montreal, it was a bad start. They scored a goal on their second shot on goal, and that's great, but it wasn't a good start for them. They did what they did score. I expect Tampa to come out flying tonight. I really do. Carey Price is the X factor, though. If he's really good, all bets are off.
Yep, I agree with that. I mean, this run for Montreal is kind of it reminds me of that Kings run in 2012. Just riding the hot goaltender, not expected to do much, came in as an 8 seed. No one really thought they'd be here, and look at where they are now. They're certainly playing with house money. But this Tampa run over the past 2 seasons, Dan, it's really impressive. Where would you rank it? I don't think it's quite as close to the Blackhawks of a couple of years ago that won, cups in differentiation, in every other year. But this Tampa Bay run is pretty close, and this is a team that I certainly would make the favorite to win the cup next year as well.
Well, it depends on what the roster looks like next year, simply because they're going to have to get hit. They're going to get hit with the cap issues next year because they had a lot of long-term injured reserve relief money with Kucherov and also contracts that they had that they stashed on LTIR. That's gone. So they're going to – Coleman's a free agent, Gaudreau's a free agent, Savard's a free agent, and they're going to lose somebody in the expansion draft too. So it's going to be interesting to see what returns. The core will return, and they'll certainly be among the favorites to win it again if they win it this year, to win it again next year. Where does this rank? All that what I just said, it's still hard to say where it ranks because they're still in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. That's the thing, Like I thought the same with Pittsburgh in 2017. Thought the same, they're still in the middle of this, but they haven't had the chance to get back. They haven't gotten themselves back since. So that pretty much was the run to win 2 in a row, but. We'll see where this goes for Tampa, but it could easily rank them. If they keep this core together and they do what they're supposed to do, in terms of keeping everybody together and with Vasilevsky in his prime and all that. I mean, we'll see where it ends up because it could keep going. It could be more than 2. It could be 3. It could be 4. It could be like the Oilers in the '80s. I mean, we don't know yet. To stretch probably to go there because it is so hard to win this thing right now. Mm-hmm. But we don't know yet where it ranks because they're still very much in the middle of it.
Well, it's certainly been impressive, and we're going to enjoy tonight. I do expect them to win the cup tonight. So, Dan, enjoy the game, have fun, and thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
There's Dan Rosen, senior writer, NHL.com, host of NHL at the Rink podcast. Check him out, of course, on Twitter as well. One of the best covering the NHL. The stats just are too staggering for me to ignore. And I don't want to disrespect Montreal here. And that was the first point that Dan was making, that you wouldn't be shocked if Montreal won this game. But with everything going the Lightning way, And the fact, as he brought up, which I didn't even think about, the annoyance of having to deal with all the COVID protocols going back to Canada. You don't want to do that at all. You want to avoid it at all costs. Win now on your home ice. Avoid that travel back up to Montreal and having to deal with all that protocol, and then hoping to win the cup and come back. And you don't want to go to a Game 7, because anything can happen, especially in hockey. It's one bounce of the puck here or there. Well, just the stats, as I brought up before, they're 14-0 after a loss the last two playoffs. So the two Stanley Cup runs this season and last season, the Lightning are 14-0 after a loss. They haven't lost consecutive playoff games since 2019. 47 consecutive games. They haven't lost two straight. And really, the goal numbers, to me, are staggering. They average over 4 goals a game at home this postseason. They're dominating on home ice, and they're playing really well in this series. They could have easily won in overtime, hit the post there. They had a 4-minute power play going from the end of regulation to the start of overtime. And I think it's better for them to win it at home, considering that they didn't get a chance to do it last season when they won in the bubble and the fans were not in the arena, and now they get an opportunity to do it in front of their home fans. The mayor took some heat because she said that, hey, we want them to lose in Game 4 so they can win at home in Game 5. Everyone will be very happy if they win tonight, which I do expect them to do, about 40 minutes or so away from puck drop at Amalie Arena. And like I mentioned before, the way to play this, you can play it in the 60-minute line. So betting on the Lightning to win in regulation, I feel more comfortable taking the plus money and betting on the Lightning to win by more than 1 goal, because I do believe that the net will be empty with some time left to play. If you're down 2, it's going to be even more time with an empty netter. If you're down 1, maybe it's just in the final 2 to 3 minutes. But I absolutely see Tampa Bay winning tonight, hoisting Lord Stanley's Cup for the 2nd consecutive season, and being the first team since the 2015 Blackhawks to win the Cup on their home ice. It is a busy weekend right here in Las Vegas with a big fight. Talk about that next, coming up right here on Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers.
Summer is finally here, and it's time to get out and enjoy the water, hike, bike, run, and to be back with friends. But life with the hassles of contacts and glasses slows you down. The Eye Center is giving you a summer of freedom thanks to Eye LASIK with Eye Design 2.0 from Dr. Boutros. LASIK at the Eye Center is even more affordable with huge savings and 0% financing. Join the thousands of people with clear vision thanks to Dr. Boutros, one of the top surgeons in Virginia with 5 locations. Schedule your free LASIK consultation at theeyecenter.com today.
To show you how easy it is to file a claim with Geico, we hired a soap opera star.
Gracious me, my car has storm damage and I've had to file a claim. Could it possibly get worse? Will my claims team leave me for someone else? Someone less intense?
No. Actually, when you file a claim with Geico, you get your own dedicated claims team who promises to stay with you throughout the process.
Oh, I've never known such loyalty. I can't wait for the 2nd season.
Geico. Great service without all the drama.
Get the most out of all odds with Bet Rivers daily hometown discounts on boosts on your favorite teams, only at your hometown sportsbook. And to make your experience even more rewarding, Bet Rivers offers the most live streams of major sports, instant payouts, and only one-time playthrough. Offer valid in Illinois only. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Not valid for any participant of the Illinois Gaming Board statewide voluntary self-exclusion program. Scott Seidenberg back here with you on Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers here on VSiN, the sports betting network. And it's a busy weekend in Las Vegas as UFC has a big fight, and Conor McGregor is the headliner. And whenever McGregor's the headliner, you know there's going to be massive amounts of public money bet on the fight. The odds, they keep going back and forth between McGregor and Poirier. As we sit here right now on Bet Rivers, Dustin Poirier is a favorite at minus 125 compared to McGregor, who's actually minus 103. There's plenty of other fights on this card, but this is the one that I think we're all focused on, is McGregor-Poirier 3. Last time out, we saw Poirier take care of McGregor early, and Conor hasn't won in nearly 3 years, but he's also never lost back-to-back fights in his career. Much like we talked about the Tampa Bay Lightning with tonight's Game 5, McGregor's never lost back-to-back. The odds right now are not intriguing for me. I think this is a wait-and-see approach because this is the first fight at T-Mobile where fans are going to be in attendance. It's a huge, huge fight card and a huge main event with Conor McGregor. There's going to be a ton of Irish fans that come in to town later this week and this weekend, and they will place their money on Conor McGregor. And I am pretty confident right now, as we sit here on Wednesday, that come Saturday night, Conor McGregor will be the favorite in this fight. Dustin Poirier will be the underdog getting plus money. So it is a wait-and-see approach for me to determine who has the better odds to lay your money on here in this fight. We'll get more into this fight coming up later on this week as we head into the weekend. But as I look at it right now, it's important for both fighters in different ways. For Conor, it's a career ender if he loses. Literally, his career is over if he loses this fight. If he wins, okay, maybe a title shot's not right there immediately, but he certainly proves that he can still fight, and he deserves to be treated as a contender. For Poirier, he wants that title fight, and he'll get it if he wins this. He'll absolutely get it. That'll be his next fight. But man, the odds right now, not exactly where I want them to be. I'm going to wait till the Irish money comes in, and we'll see Conor be the favorite and Poirier be the dog as we sit here on Wednesday. We'll wait until Saturday. That Irish money is going to come in later on this week. There's also some golf this weekend, the American Century Golf Tournament. We saw the match yesterday with Bryson DeChambeau and Aaron Rodgers defeating Tom Brady and Phil Mickelson. They were the favorite in the event. It went up against the NBA Finals, so we were able to watch a little bit of it, but the ending we weren't because Game 1 of the NBA Finals was in progress. Obviously they schedule these things far in advance, and you're not sure of how the NBA schedule is going to play out, but just bad luck for the folks there, I guess, at TNT because they were unable to, have this on a night where there was no NBA Finals game. But I think I saw enough from Aaron Rodgers to feel confident about his performance this coming weekend. So we'll see what happens with that. It's always a fun event to see these guys get out there and, hack away and look like mortals, because they look like gods when they're on the football field, but when they're on the golf course, they look like you and I. Absolutely. We got the NBA Finals, Game 2 coming up here tomorrow. Obviously, the Suns with a 1-0 series lead over the Milwaukee Bucks. And we'll take a look at some prop bets here for Game 2 as the market has shifted from the lines that we saw in Game 1 based on the Game 1 performances. The odds have shifted for the MVP award. The odds have shifted for the series as well. Where should you place your money on Game 2 of the NBA Finals in Phoenix? We'll get to that coming up next. I'm Scott Seidenberg, here in for Danny Burke. This is Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers, here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. VSiN is your betting headquarters for UFC 264. We're bringing you in-depth analysis of the McGregor-Poirier main event, plus key bouts on the undercard from our full team of experts, including Lou Finicaro, Reed Kuhn, and Jordan Sherwood. Sign up for the free VSiN newsletter to receive our digital guide and tune in Saturday at noon Eastern for First Strike, our live preview show hosted by Dave Ross. Get everything you need for betting on UFC 264 and sign up now for the free UFC 264 betting guide at vsin.com/free. Scott Seidenberg back here on Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers here on VSiN, the sports betting network. You can hit me up on Twitter at Scott's On Air or at VSiN Live. Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final, about a half an hour or so away from puck drop at Amalie Arena. And Game 2 of the NBA Finals will be tomorrow from Phoenix. The Suns with a 1-0 series lead after their 118-105 victory over the Bucks. The game did go over, and the Suns did cover every line that you would have had for this game, whether it was 6, 6.5, or when it moved all the way down to 4.5, 5, when Giannis was announced that he was going to play. They covered the first half line, the first quarter line as well. It was all Suns against the Bucks. And the prop bets were all Suns as well, as DeAndre Ayton went over his points total, which is what we gave out. Chris Paul went over his points total. 32 points, 9 assists, 4 boards for CP3, and now the overwhelming favorite to win the Most Valuable Player award. It's not just myself. A lot of cappers and NBA analysts had suggested that instead of laying the 2-1 on the Suns to win the series, you were better off going for the plus money and betting on Chris Paul to win the Most Valuable Player award. On Monday, we suggested that would be the play. It was plus 175. On Tuesday at Bet Rivers, prior to Game 1's tip, it was plus 160. Right now, after Game 1, leading up to Game 2, Chris Paul is minus 143 to be the NBA Finals MVP. Devin Booker's odds are very interesting, to be honest with you, at plus 300, because it's not like he had a bad Game 1. Devin Booker had 27 points with 6 assists in that game and 3 steals. And if Chris Paul comes back down to earth, he's hot right now, certainly, after his performance in the closeout game in the conference final and then now Game 1 of the NBA Finals. But if Chris Paul comes back down to earth and Devin Booker lights up the stat sheet and scores upwards of 30, maybe even 40 points in a couple of these games, Booker could easily be the most valuable player. And getting plus 300 is a pretty nice boost here if you want to sprinkle some bucks on that. But you're not going to talk me off the Chris Paul bet. I put it in before the series on Monday at plus 175. I'm happy it's at minus 143 now. And a couple of other good performances here from Chris Paul. He will be the most valuable player of the NBA Finals should the Phoenix Suns win, which I believe they will. Taking a look at the odds here for the exact series score up on Bet Rivers, the Suns to sweep is plus 475. Suns in 5, which was my suggestion prior to Game 1 tip, it is plus 250. Suns in 6, plus 400. Suns in 7, plus 425. If you think the Bucks can come back and win this series after dropping Game 1, you get some pretty nice odds on them winning the NBA Finals. To win the next 4 games in a row, you're getting 20-1 odds. For the Bucks to win in 6, plus 800. For the Bucks to win in 7, plus 750. Now let's take a look at the Milwaukee Bucks here for a second. Going into Game 1, I gave you the stats of the Milwaukee Bucks' struggles in Game 1s of their playoff series. Not just this season, not just last season in the bubble, but going back 3 seasons, they have struggled mightily in Game 1s of the playoffs. Opening games of their series, they were 2-6 against the spread, 0-5 this year, now 0-6. It's been bad. The last 2 seasons. It's been bad. However, in Game 2 of their playoff series, after dropping Game 1, they have a much better record. They have bounced back following a Game 1 loss. 6-2 straight up in their last 8 game 2s after losing game 1. So if you think the Bucks are going to bounce back in this series, steal home court advantage, and win one game here in Phoenix, there's some nice odds that you can get on them to win this game. As I mentioned, 6-2 in their last 8 game 2s following a game 1 loss or even a game 1 win, in which they failed to cover the spread or whatnot. But 6-2 in their last game 2s overall. And so you're looking now at the odds for the series. The Suns are minus 345. The Bucks are plus 270. But here for game number 2, the Bucks getting plus points in game 2 has to be attractive if you believe that the trend will continue. The Bucks plus 5.5 points, total 219.5. 6-2 in their last 8 game 2s of the playoffs, plus 5.5 points seems like an attractive bet. But there's a little bit of hesitation for me because of what I saw in game 1. Giannis looked great. I'm not hesitant about him because as I thought that he wouldn't play a lot of minutes in game 1. I thought it was foolish for Mike Budenholzer to actually play him in game 1, but he looked great. He played a ton of minutes. He looked healthy. He was jumping all over the floor. The knee did not seem to bother him at all. But the defensive rotation for the Milwaukee Bucks, I didn't like at all. The drop coverage, the switching on the pick and rolls, they were in mismatches all game. Monty Williams outcoached Mike Budenholzer in game 1. They switched too many times. Chris Paul went right at Brook Lopez. DeAndre Ayton was on a smaller player. Ayton had his way on offense inside the paint. Chris Paul had his way with the mid-range jumper. And the main piece of defense here that bothered me so much was that Drew Holiday, who is the best defender for the Milwaukee Bucks, spent the majority of the game guarding Devin Booker, not Chris Paul. And I think that's an adjustment that Mike Budenholzer has to make if the Bucks hope to steal game 2 from the Phoenix Suns and not only cover that 5.5, but win the game outright. Coming up next, we'll get into the Major League Baseball slate as games that are underway right now and some games that start at the top of the hour. I'm Scott Seidenberg here on Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers.
Mattress Warehouse knows that buying a mattress can be tough. With so many choices, where do you start? Introducing Bed Match, a patented diagnostic system that determines your pressure points and recommends the mattresses that are best for your individual sleep needs. And it's found only at Mattress Warehouse. Come try Bed Match at a Mattress Warehouse near you. Visit sleephappens.com for locations and get free next day delivery on select purchases.
Mattress Warehouse, sleephappens.com.
The Jaguar F-Type doesn't just go from point A to point B. It takes you places few will ever experience. Climb into the driver-focused cockpit. Start the engine with a simple push of a button. And suddenly it's just you and 575 horsepower. 8 gears shifting. The agile suspension hugging the road. The rest of the world just melting away till everything else becomes a blur. And while the engine is a symphony in itself, feel free to lose yourself in your own soundtrack with the available 825-watt Meridian surround sound system. The Jaguar F-Type, an exhilarating combination of design and performance, makes it like no other sports car in the world. Learn more at JaguarUSA.com.
If you're looking for a hot tip to bet on Bet Rivers Sportsbook, well, they have you covered every day. Go to the Bet Rivers app or betrivers.com and find the game you want to bet on. Tap tips and you'll get instant research for the upcoming matchup. Try it out for baseball, soccer, tennis, and a variety of other sports. And to make your experience even more rewarding, Bet Rivers offers the most live streams of major sports, instant payouts, and only one-time playthrough. Bet Rivers, your hometown sportsbook. Offer valid in Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Virginia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Available at PlaySugarHouse.com in New Jersey. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Illinois, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. That's 1-800-994-8448. Colorado, 1-800-522-4700. Michigan, 1-800-270-7177. Virginia, 1-888-532-3500. Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. Scott Seidenberg back here with you on Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers here on VSiN, the sports betting network. Major League Baseball, a couple of games in progress, a couple of games have concluded already, and an interesting slate for later on this evening. In progress right now, Marlins lead the Dodgers 2-0, Blue Jays on top of the Orioles 3-0, Brewers lead the Mets 2-0. Earlier, it was the Rays over the Indians in 7 innings, a doubleheader there scheduled. 8-1 was the final. The Braves demolished the Pirates 14-3. White Sox cover and beat the Twins 6-1. Tigers over the Rangers 5-3. Reds come back, beat the Royals 5-2. Mets and Brewers played the first game of a doubleheader, and in 8 innings, the Mets a walk-off win 4-3. DeGrom's ERA, though, it's above 1 for the first time this season. Yes, DeGrom giving up some runs. His ERA is north of 1 for the first time this season. It's July 7th, and his ERA just now is north of 1. He is a lock to win the Cy Young Award in the National League. An absolute stone-cold lock. Angels beat the Red Sox 5-4, Rays over the Indians 4-0, Game 2 of their doubleheader. Coming up in a few minutes from now, it'll be the Phillies and the Cubs from Chicago. And to say that the Cubs are in a tailspin is being generous. They've lost 11 straight games, and there is no sign of this losing skid turning around. It has been a bad couple of weeks for the Chicago Cubs, and now they have to face Zach Wheeler. And in 4 of Zach Wheeler's last 6 starts, he has allowed 0 earned runs. The Phillies, in these first 2 games against the Cubs, have scored 28 runs. And Alec Mills goes for Chicago. He has given up 2 or more earned runs in 4 of his last 5 starts, and all of them have been less than 6 innings. The line on this game, the Phillies are your favorite, minus 141. The Cubs getting plus 123. The total is 7.5. I love the over. I love the Phillies. But the play for me, based on those numbers that I just gave out, is going to be the Phillies in the first 5 innings. Because of Zach Wheeler being on the hill, because of the Phillies offense clicking and scoring, they're red hot right now, the 28 runs in the last 2 games against Chicago, and Alec Mills giving up 2 or more earned runs in 4 of his 5 starts. I really like the Phillies here to beat the Cubs in the first 5-inning line. And you just look at the last couple of games here. The Phillies have averaged 3.67 runs per first 5 innings. Collectively this season, they average 2.54 runs per first 5 innings, and on the road, 2.26. Meanwhile, the Cubs, well, they average 2.33 runs per first 5 innings, and so I'd rather go with the team that's hot, the team that scores more, the better pitcher, and give me the Phillies to stay hot here, beat the Cubs in the first 5. And yes, I'm picking on a Cubs team that has lost 11 straight games. 11 straight games. That is a tailspin. Couple other angles that I'm playing here for some of these later games. You got the A's and the Astros coming up about 20 minutes or so from now from Houston, and I'm targeting the total in this one. It's at 8.5. Sean Manaea against Luis Garcia. And I'm looking at a couple of numbers here for the Oakland A's, the matchup that they have. Sean Manaea has been like one of their best pitchers, but the Astros are the number one team in Major League Baseball against left-handed pitching. They're hitting .287. They have the most runs and the most hits in Major League Baseball against left-handed pitching. And so I think the Astros are going to feast against Sean Manaea here in this game. Luis Garcia's got an ERA at 3.14. The expected runs is actually higher if you look at something like that. The A's are in the top half, meanwhile, of Major League Baseball hitting against right-handers. So all of this lines up for me to look at the total in this game and go with the over 8.5 runs. I think the Astros will get to Manaea. I think that the A's will get to Garcia. And I talked about the first 5 innings with the Phillies and the Cubs. Well, first 5 innings right here between the Astros and the A's, I like that over even more. It's at 4.5 runs, and I think we're going to get that. Houston is the second highest scoring team in Major League Baseball in the first 5 innings. They average 3.23 runs per first 5 innings this season. The last 3 games, it's been 3.33. At home, 3.33 this entire season. So I like the Astros really to get to Manaea. They hit lefties really well. They score in the first 5 innings of games. Oakland, not too shabby as well. 2.48 runs per first 5 innings. So if you look at the combined total, that's over 6. And the line here is 4.5. Your total for the first 5 innings between the Astros and the Athletics. I'm going to go with the over in that first 5 innings of 4.5. Cardinals take on the Giants. Alex Wood against Johan Oviedo, and the Giants have lost 2 games in a row, and that is rare. It's only happened 7 times this season. They did have the best record in Major League Baseball, 53-32. I believe that still holds up because the Red Sox lost once again today. So the best record in Major League Baseball to the San Francisco Giants. And with Alex Wood on the hill, 7-3, 3.89 ERA, they have the pitching advantage over Johan Oviedo, who is 0-4 on the year, 5.14 ERA. And to me, this is just banking on a team in the San Francisco Giants to play to stop the losing streak. They're too good of a team to drop 3 straight. I think they salvage 1 game here in this series, and they will snap out of this losing streak. They lost 3 in a row to when they lost to the A's and then lost back-to-back games against the Dodgers before sweeping the Diamondbacks. Now they've lost 2 straight here to the Cardinals. I expect them to bounce back with a win here over Johan Oviedo and the Cardinals. And the line is high for the San Francisco Giants today. It's minus 177. The run line could be worth a look. But I actually like the first, again, we're going with the first 5 innings. I'm a first 5 player because in Major League Baseball, when you're handicapping these games, you're really banking on the starting pitching. There's only so much you can do with the bullpens. Sure, you can look at the bullpen and the average, the ERA, and whether or not they're giving up a ton of runs, but there's so many things that are just unpredictable when it comes to the second half of these games once the starters are out. If you expect the starters to be there for the bulk of the innings, barring a bad outing, that's really where the handicap comes in for me. The San Francisco Giants average 2.81 runs per first 5 innings this season. That is 7th in all of baseball. St. Louis is 2.52. They're 15th in baseball. And Oviedo has, not exactly had a great season so far. Let's take a look at his last couple of starts here. Against Colorado, he allowed 3 runs in 6 innings. Against Pittsburgh, he allowed 5 runs in 4 innings. Against Detroit, 2 runs in 3 2/3 innings. He had a great outing against Miami back on the 16th of June where he went 7 shutout innings. But before that, against the Chicago Cubs, 4 runs in 4 1/3 innings. So Oviedo has given up at least 2 or more runs in 5 of his last 6 starts, 4 of his last 5 starts. And so that's where I would really look to pick on the Cardinals today and pick on Oviedo. And I'm going to go with the Giants minus a half a run in the first 5 innings. So if you're paying attention, we got a little first 5 parlay here going, right? We got the Giants minus a half a run in the first 5. We got the over 4.5, A's and the Astros in the first 5, and the Phillies in the first 5 over the Cubs. So how about a fourth one, right? Let's get into another game. Yankees and Mariners from Seattle is a game that yesterday I was on the wrong side of. And I was looking at the numbers of the Mariners, and I was kind of jaded by their run line stats, because if you looked at where they were going into that game against the Yankees yesterday, they were 19-8 on the run line as a home underdog, while the Yankees were 13-20 on the run line as a road favorite. So naturally, I felt the Yankees would be, the Mariners, would be the pick on the run line. Well, Yankees dominated 12-1. And that actually gives me hope for the Yankees here coming into this game. I like the Yankees now to keep these bats hot and come out and start fast against a left-handed pitcher on the mound and handle this Mariners team and this matchup against Kikuchi. So I'm going to go with the Yankees in the first 5, and like I said, the Phillies in the first 5, the over in the Astros in the first 5, and we'll go with the Giants over the Cardinals in the first 5. NBA Finals Game 2 tomorrow. We'll have much more on that. Lightning minus a goal and a half is the play here tonight. Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. I'm Scott Seidenberg here on Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Been thinking about McDonald's all day. Can't get it off my mind. I can already taste it. Ooh, got my mind on my mouth and my mouth ready for some Mickey D's deal.
There's a deal for every moment at McDonald's.
Right now, get 2 of your favorites for just $3.50. Mix and match a classic McChicken, a hot and spicy McChicken, or a juicy McDouble. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with combo meal. Single item at regular price.
Are you One Tree Hill obsessed? Are Brooke, Peyton, and Haley your BFF goals? Join Sophia Bush, Hillary Burton, and Bethany Joy Lenz on the Drama Queens podcast to relive, relove, and rewatch every One Tree Hill minute.
There are no fans like One Tree Hill fans. There is no family like our family. So we got together to do a rewatch podcast to relive the show, as so many of you have.
Listen to Drama Queens on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.